So as we wrapped up our last discussion, we kind of acknowledged that reality is we have highs and lows, and those lows can be pretty scary sometimes. The highs are great, but the lows are a lot of times what keeps us awake at night. And so I wanted to spend some time just talking through the reality of that and what can we do when those things come and land in our laps, and how do we respond. So Larry, I might throw that to you first. When we get hit with those surprises, things that we a lot of times don't expect and definitely aren't prepared for, how do we naturally react to that kind of stuff, and how can we better position ourselves maybe to handle it?
You know, it's impossible to have the right answer when hard times come, to have a cookie cutter type answer, Pete. But, you know, my thought is that they are coming, and the storms of life are approaching. And what we like to talk about with our clients that are going through a hard time, we walk with our leaders as well as, so there are two parts of our makeup. One is emotional, and then one is logic. We call that the emotional side of our brain and the logic side of our brain. And our tendency is when those times come and they hit us, it's unexpected. We don't have time to prepare. We don't have time to think through and to structure and to organize. I mean, they're in our face, whatever that is. If it's a tragedy, if it's whatever. So our tendency is to react out of emotion. Our tendency is to default back to that emotional side of our brain, right? And a lot of times that's destructive. And if we could when those hard times come, make a conscious, I'll call it be intentionality around how we are responding. I think the first step is to make it cognitive, to make it logical, to say, I'm going to use, so you think of two circles and they intersect. Where they intersect there is what they call the wise mind, where you have the logic and the emotion intersecting together. One side is emotion, one side is logic. But when the hard times come, we really need to kind of get over that logic side. We need to be able to think it through to get a plan, to think about how we're going to respond. And I don't do it very well, but if we could take a step back and instead of reacting, think through from the cognitive standpoint. The more cognitive we become, the better decisions we make and the more rational we become in those hard times.
So just as a group here, and I know this isn't a lot of fun to talk about sometimes, but what are some of those things that you fear could impact you? The first one that jumps in my mind is the hurricane that New York and the East Shore is still dealing with, right? The tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri several years ago. Huge impact on a lot of businesses and families. What are some other things that you know, in reality, these are things that could happen to us that you guys think about? scary things, and there are things that in reality we may have to deal with sometimes. Talked this morning about tort plans and how important those are, and some of your husbands have gone through or going through the business continuity, disaster plan training, and those types of things. There's one other piece though that I want to make sure we talk about, and that's the Hands That Give organization. And I'm going to turn this over here and ask Dad to spend a few minutes just talking about what that is and the purpose and what it does.
So how many of you know about Hands That Give and what it's all about? Most of you have heard about it. If you can hang that clicker right there. So it's been 2.5 years now that we announced back in Dallas in May of 2010 that we wanted to create some kind of support organization that could come alongside members in the event that something disrupted their business. We had seen across the peer groups that things happen, unexpected things happen, and when they do, it really is a struggle and an issue, and it's real life. But, you know, a lot of times people were willing to go help, but owners would say, don't come, we don't want you to spend your own money to come and help us, and I can't afford to buy you plane tickets and put you up and all that stuff. And so, you know, as we watched those dynamics happen within groups, it became obvious that the limiting factor in response was people felt like they were taking advantage of somebody financially that wanted to give their time to help them. So Hands That Give is all about having a pool of money that we can use to respond in the event of either a natural disaster or a personal crisis. And we do that, you know, to come alongside insurance. You know, insurance is a great thing. We all need it. It's part of having a good business continuity and disaster recovery plan. I was in the room across the hall with the group for a little while, and they were talking about this very issue. You know, we gotta know what our insurance coverage will be like in the event of a disaster, where the holes are, because there are some. And the holes are usually around people. Insurance companies will pay for stuff, but stuff doesn't fix everything. And a lot of times, we need people. And so that's where Hands That Give steps in kind of to fill the gap. We're able to take money that's been provided as part of their membership in that organization and apply it to move people in to provide support. And so that's the design behind it. You know, it's a community of members that contribute at different levels based on the size of their organization. So it starts at a few $100s for small companies. The maximum anyone can contribute is $1,500 for a large organization. And you can cover multiple locations, multiple people. And it's not insurance, but it's kind of looked at that way by a lot of folks as supplemental to what they have. But we're willing to you know, come alongside when things happen. So HTG has a fund where we keep all those dollars separated away, apart. And we have a board that is an oversight committee that when a request comes in, we have a website that people can go and make a request if they have an issue they'd like us to consider. We have an oversight group that will look at that and decide how we can best support them. And so we'll respond to a number of different things, okay? Any kind of natural disaster. You know, 3 weeks after we announced this back in May of 2010, the Joplin tornado hit. And we had one of our members lose his office was gone. That was our first response. It's been our biggest response to date. I think we had 18 people on the ground in Joplin within 48 hours. And you know, John, who will be here for the meetings this week, would be the first to tell you that had that response not come, he probably wouldn't be in business today. Because it was overwhelming. And you know, you can only work 24 hours in a day, and that's all there is. So he needed a lot more than that. He served medical facilities in the city, so he was kind of an important cog in making things happen. And literally, the server racks that were in his office were twisted, you know, We had to dig the equipment out, take it back, take it apart, wash it out in the dishwasher, try to get it so we could restore it. And amazingly, within 4 or 5 days, we had every one of his customers back in business. And so his team did heroic work, but you know, the fact he had extra arms and the help was critical. So, you know, Sandy is a great recent example. I was teasing Mike. I said, you know how to schedule these disaster recovery trainings and get people's attention, you know. So, you know, when bad things happen naturally, that's kind of a big deal. We have a lot more requests that are of the personal nature because life is happening all over the place. And so we've made about a dozen different responses over the course of Hands That Give. Most of them have been around personal crisis. You know, a spouse that gets ill for an extended period of time and you can't be in the office because you got to be at the hospital with them. And so we will hire a C-level person to come in. In this case, we hired a chief operating officer for 6 months to come in and help. So they could not feel like, you know, I'm torn between, you know, go to the hospital and do my job as a spouse, or I have to go to the office and hope that nothing bad happens. We've had cases where there's been, you know, family issues with a child. And it was, again, this choice of I'm torn between going to the office or not. And we're able to provide some temporary staffing for them. Mental health kinds of challenges that may come up with one of the key employees. We've had some cases where folks have passed away, key employees have passed away, and we're able to step in and help them get counseling, whatever they need to work through it as an organization. So, you know, we're trying to help reduce the impact of personal crisis through this organization. And it's been interesting, you know, we've got about 170 members out of HTG that are part of it. So we've got a lot of companies involved. We've only made one request for people to join. And what we find is as we provide the ability to respond, people put more money in the pot. So we actually have more money now than when we started the thing because people appreciate the help they've gotten over time. Other folks pitch in from the outside. So it's been kind of an interesting thing to watch. And the pay it forward, go giver, I want to make a difference for somebody else really has kicked in. So, you know, this is an important thing for you to think about, you know, participate in. You know, so another thing you can ask your spouse if you're not sure if you're part of it. But, you know, Hands That Give is a kind of a foundational part of HTG and what we believe is our role in the industry. And that's just to support all of our members as they go through tough times. Because it happens to all of us. So, you know, there's lots of things besides weather that can happen to disrupt business. And so we're trying to help with any kind of disruption, be it for a few days or for an extended period of time. You know, we'll do travel expenses, we'll do food, we'll do hotel, we'll do supplies, we'll do whatever it takes to pick up where insurance is not meeting needs in order to make a response. So, you know, it's based around a number of locations, a number of key people that we want to have part of the program. It's really quite simple. And so, you know, we just want to get people involved and allow them the opportunity to have a little more peace of mind around what they're doing.
So thank you for sharing that overview. Do you guys have any questions about Hands That Give? Things that we can answer or talk about now? Nancy did a good job. You know, so realistically, we hope this is something that we never have to deal with. But you know, Larry mentioned these storms are going to come. They are going to hit personally at some point, and so being prepared for that. Floor plan is discussed this morning, hands to give and all that, other planning that goes into that are all key parts of being prepared. And they definitely encourage you all to be part of working through that process. So, with that, I don't have a whole lot else to discuss here, unless you guys have other things you want to mention.
So, I hope it's been a valuable day, that you've learned some things about strategic building. If there's one thing I really want to encourage you, it's to go back, have a conversation with your spouse, ask questions about the plans, be part of the process. It's great when you can attend meetings and really understand what's going on. Running a business is a challenging thing. There's lots of things that can disrupt us and cause stress. But there's a lot of need for understanding and support. And you guys play a critical role as spouses in helping small business owners endure what they're going through. So, thanks for making the investment. Even if it is your anniversary week, I'm glad you're with us. And, Eaton has delivered the wine and cheese for us. So we'll end our time together here in Orlando. Thank you for joining us on the webcast. And